Good evening. Welcome back to BoomerRexTonight, your nearly daily source for news and politics. I have some exciting news for you today, but first, let me introduce Mr. Boomer Rex himself.
Good evening again.
Asshole.
Hey.
And I am RisenLadyHeathen. So as I was saying, we have some exciting news. We now have a Facebook.
All right.
So if you go on Facebook and you search for Boomer Rex Tonight, we will pop up. It's a little, the picture is a little T-Rex
All right.
head underwater. It's like really neat.
Okay.
So, and we also have a Podbean account, but it's being weird right now. So even if you search,
we may or may not have one.
No, we have one. I made one, but what I'm saying is, I don't know if any of our stuff is up yet. Like I don't know what happened. I uploaded it and stuff, so I don't know, but that should be coming soon. As soon as that's sorted out, I'll let y'all know, and we'll put links in the description. Our Facebook link will be in the description, and if I can get this Podbean thing working, that'll be up. So
Excellent.
we are almost officially a podcast now.
All right. I always wanted to be a podcast.
Yeah, once we get the Podbean working, we're good to go.
Okay.
So that was where I spent my day, so I don't have any special deep dives or anything, but I figured we could finish those questions that we didn't get to.
Well, that's
the
good.
other
I like
day.
that. Yes.
So, all right, so let's dig in. What's going in with building the coalition?
All right. So Jacobian and YouGov and the Center for Working Class Politics did a fair amount of polling to say, why are working class voters not aligning with the Democrats, right? And because those are the only people talking about doing the things that are good for working class voters. All right. And so part of what they found is, right, skip the woke language, right? You don't have to give up on being anti-racist, but skip the woke language, right? Make it as simple as saying, we don't approve of racists.
Right.
This is not hard. But at the same time, the issues that resonate with the working class are good jobs, affordable health care, right? Those are the Democratic core.
Yeah.
Why aren't we talking about them?
Oh, because they're too busy talking about guns and stuff that doesn't matter and doesn't change anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, what they found out was that working class voters, even in quite red districts, are responsive when you talk about good wages, good jobs, good health care, etc. Right? And again, these are democratic core values. For God's sake, get back.
Might want to tell someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might want to act like we remember.
Well,
And part of that obviously is to raise the minimum wage, right?
Right.
And you have to present that one properly, which is that nobody
There shouldn't be any
deserves
bad jobs in America.
Yeah. So
I'm not saying all the jobs should pay the same. I'm saying that there shouldn't be a job where, but now you starve.
can't make a living. Yeah.
You'll
and
need
again,
3 of these.
all salaries float on the minimum wage.
Yep.
Right. If you make slightly more than the minimum wage now and the minimum wage goes up, you're going to make more than the minimum wage afterward. Or you should find a new job. Some companies are going to have to learn their lesson. Fine.
Yeah.
But again, these are values that the working class understands. And if you want to build a working class coalition, right, you need to go talk about the stuff the working class, and you have to take action on things that the working class thinks are important. And you got to lose the elitist attitude. You got to lose the woke language.
Right.
And if you're not willing to do those things, then you're going to live under Donald Trump. It's that simple. So anyway, wake up or
No, and stop talking about these inflated school shooting numbers to try to work on these gun laws, because first of all, it's not going to happen. Second of all, you're lying. Third of all, no, just stop.
No, we got news.
Trying to scare people with these numbers is ridiculous.
Already got Newsom trying to make a good point that's wildly not. It's going to take longer to explain. Where he wants to use the Texas bill as a model for how they're going to outlaw M16s or AR-15s in California. And that's a huge mistake. First off, a large number of Americans, that's the only weapon they ever actually had anyone sit down and be like, here's all the fucking parts, man.
This is a weapon I own for a very simple reason. It's the one I know how to shoot. It's the one I know inside out. It's the one I can take apart and put back together in the dark.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sorry. Again, it's a weapon I own and a weapon I'm going to continue to own. And I did it because it's the weapon I'm most familiar with, most competent
Probably
with.
why it's the number one selling in the United States.
Big shock.
Which is more interesting in its lack of showing up in crimes.
Yeah, this is a gun that is universally never used in crimes. Except the percentage...
long guns aren't used in crime.
No,
right?
So, no, I'd love to see it, but no one's broken it out. I would love to know the most common brand of pistol found. And then demonize the living shit out of a pistol for fun.
Yeah, it's going to be something cheap.
Yeah.
You promise you'd go after two, pistols and revolvers. Right.
I think a revolver would get national coverage.
Yeah. Anyway, and I will say one thing for Newsom's approach. It is interesting to see that thought brought out in public where people might recognize what it means to start subverting the Constitution, right, to get what you want. So,
well, and maybe that was his point, rather than like actually wanting to go through with it.
I hope
let
so.
the Republicans take a minute to think, oh shit, this is how this could be used against us. Maybe we don't want to open these doorways.
Right.
So,
the other thing
I doubt
we might want to remember
it'd be nice.
is that if we make the election about abortion,
the
Republicans lose.
Mm.
They will.
Don't know.
Florida's already reported a huge surge of Republicans. For the first time in Florida, Republicans outnumber Democrats. I think it's in Tallahassee. And that's never happened, or at least not for a long time. So again, like, Republicans are coming out in force because they support the abortion bans, not because they're against it. So talking about against it isn't going to get people to come out and vote.
Anyway.
We need to get people to come out and vote. So what we need to talk about today...
And I think Texas and some of the others are likely to make the election about abortion and lose it for them.
And that's fine. So what we need to focus on is what you said, these talking points. We need to talk about minimum wage.
And stop.
Affordable health care. Fuck everything else. You could talk about it later. Don't talk about it during the election.
Yep.
If people ask, say we will discuss that later at another time. But right now, what I'm focusing on is making sure every American can make a living wage and afford health care for their family.
And we've seen it happen before. The only time anyone even for 6 seconds thought it was getting any kind of better was in the 90s. And no one was talking about caravans of who gives a damn. And no one was talking about abortion. I mean, they were, but... they weren't getting a lot of traction because people didn't feel pressured. Fix the money, and it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Fix
always
the money, the rest will fall into place.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not going to get them to talk about the other unless they know they're okay. And the fastest route to that, because again, the guns, they don't, who fucking cares? Outlaw the guns, don't. It's a tool. Humans will get access to the tools they need to do what they've decided to do.
Yeah.
Right. So... did you have something?
We got humans that go at it with axes, and if humans thought about it more, they'd steal airplanes. Don't steal airplanes, the internet. Send us money to buy one, right? After you like, comment, subscribe,
No,
follow us
a
on
blimp,
Facebook.
a giant blimp.
Yeah, I don't. Send me a little
pirate blimp named Yacht.
Well, obviously God says I need both, so
Okay.
get out your checkbook, dude.
So speaking of government, who are the insurrectionists? You have a
Well, that
little
plays
piece
right
on
back
this.
into this, right? The interesting thing is that they're not terribly old. Average age was about 42 years, right? Round numbers, 40 years.
Yeah.
Right? So they're relatively younger. More than 50% of them have white-collar jobs or own businesses, right? So these were not losers who showed up, right? In fact, the one thing that brings them all together is the fact that overwhelmingly they come from counties where the white share of the population has declined for the last decade, and they're reacting to the loss of white power. So the ones who showed up these are white supremacists, right? These are
Let's just say there is no loss of white power, folks. Your white power is perfectly
Which
fine. These
is
people
how I know
believe
it's
it
not
is.
that. If they were white power, they'd be goose stepping in the streets en masse already. I don't. We know conservatives have an oversized IFF filter. I know what they're reacting to is the visual stimulus they see of no longer being the dominant tribe on the street.
yeah.
Fine. Maybe I've learned entirely too much about the actual neo-Nazi side of this. Luckily, those kids are having a hard time reproducing because it's really hard to recruit Gen Zs into it. But you can get them into anti-government stuff easily because what's the government ever done for them?
Yeah.
And it's a long answer, and it's kind of esoteric.
No, but I agree with you. And when it takes us right back to where we were about building a coalition with the working class.
Yeah.
Right. Is saying government has to work for them.
Yeah.
Right now, our postal service is totally screwed up. Right? I mean, totally. Some days you don't get mail. There are people who haven't had mail for 3 or 4 days, who haven't had mail picked up.
No, it's totally
for
cool.
3 or
I'm sure the
4
guys who
days.
are sending you bills are going to accept that.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I'm
that'll
sure.
matter.
Now, and I'm not bitching
That means
about
it's not a business day, right?
that. We're on what's called a contract route. That was to save the post office money. These aren't U.S. Postal Service employees. They don't have benefits. They don't, right? So there's a new group that has the contract, and they're trying very, very hard to make it work, and they will ultimately succeed. What the fuck with contract routes? This is idiotic.
It's literally one
Right.
of a very small, not even a handful of things the U.S. is actually required to have.
Yeah.
Oh, let's
make
actually
it work.
Let's actually do. I want to do
Okay.
this because
That'll be
this
fun.
is something that has been a problem for me for quite some time. Let's do a deep dive on the
Postal Service.
postal service.
Okay.
Those
From the
times you screwed
start,
Risen, you're about to pay.
everything that's fucked it up over the years, everything that's made it more difficult for it to do its job appropriately,
Yep.
and how things have changed and laws and who put them in place and why.
Yep.
So let's do deep dive postal service. I'm making a note. Keep
Okay,
talking.
that sounds good.
Yeah, no, that's a
Let
fun
us
one.
know when that's ready, and then we'll have an update on local service as well. Because this group hasn't had the contract for very long, right? And they're struggling. It's not an easy
Oh, yeah, I'm
route.
not hitting them. It's the
Yeah.
structural bits that we've done this. We did this on purpose.
Yeah.
Right? It's the things that feed into the people who go, there's a global cabal of something.
And if we really piss them off, they'll walk away and say, fuck you. And then there won't be any delivery.
I would.
Right.
That's what contracting means.
Yeah.
There's an amount of bad you can be to a contractor where they just go, no, I'm
No,
done.
I'm done. That actually appears to be what happened to the last one.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm considering getting another notebook specifically for my deep dives so that I can spend more
Yeah,
time.
no, good idea.
Like,
Writing
comment,
them
subscribe,
up.
send us pizza boxes full of money, and you can be entered in a raffle to win
Hey,
Risen's
right.
homework.
If you want to buy me a notebook, I'll be more than happy to share like an Amazon wish list or something.
There
we'll
you go.
figure it out. We'll make a Boomer Rex
Boomer
wish
Rex
list.
tonight wish list. Oh my God, you people are crazy.
Hey, it's the only way to safely get shit without anybody knowing our address ever.
Okay. So let's see, what was up next?
Michigan school shooting update.
Yeah. Again, this is going down the standard route. Remember, the Attorney General of Michigan said, we will investigate this for you. And they said, no, thank you. We're going to hire an outside company.
He
So-
needs emails.
And again,
Did they speak to Hillary?
They're going to hire cyber ninjas.
oh my God.
You
Anyway,
could hire the guys that cleaned up for
so yes,
Yeah, they should definitely hire those guys. They didn't miss anything.
Hey,
even Epstein.
I'm sure that's a big house full of a lot of sticky.
Anyway, the school district has been accused of destroying data and so on.
And God help you if you did. First off, look, there's probably someone who works there. It's probably your janitor. I don't think you asked him. I don't think any of you who work at that school know how to delete an email at the level that makes them not recoverable.
Yeah. So anyway, again, it's going down the exactly typical, predictable path. is now we're on the hunt for the guilty, quote, guilty.
We're on the hunt for the liable.
Yes, there you go. Sorry, that's a better way to look at it.
No, and it's insane that we ended up here, because I remember when I was a kid, that kind of, like, no one ever thought about liability. And
the problem is that we have developed a society where a lot of our structures are intended for the use of honorable men and women, but honorable people. And there aren't very many of those around anymore.
Mm.
Right?
That was always a symptom of excess.
Yeah.
All of that shit only exists when most of your people are getting fed.
Hi, Epstein and Maxwell are the perfect symptom. Look at what they got away with, for how long they got away with it, right?
Enron.
We need to stop
MCI.
this.
MCI was the last one where one person really had it. Because the other one, was it Abraham? Who did the big Ponzi scheme? Madoff. You could look at how Madoff was running that scam.
Yeah.
And it was just bullshit, and everyone was drafting behind him.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that you can do handwritten sales for... No.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? That is some 30s garbage.
Yeah.
And I know I backdated. I had bought him yesterday, but I wasn't near a phone. Oh, I want to trade like that. I think I could do really well. Tom Clancy's thing. I would be perfectly fine privatizing Social Security. You know, a big nondescript building right outside the Beltway with really thick-necked guards. So yeah, no, it's totally a privatized company. Don't go on their property. It'll be bad. And riding in front of it, right? I tap everybody's phone, do some real scammy shit.
I had that experience in Japan, right? Going to a meeting with a major Japanese manufacturer, and I have forgotten what had gone haywire, but
back when it was fun.
One of their mid-level managers had been found doing something very illegal under Japanese law. But there were a number of upset people who were surrounding this corporate headquarters, and we were escorted in by their private security army, of which there were dozens, armed with HKMP5s with silencers.
Yeah, I believe it.
That has always struck me as a corporate security community that was wound so dumbly too tight.
Yeah. What they looked like were Belgian highway patrol.
Yeah, only, they're going to do it
Those are the
for a
scariest
corporation.
cops I've ever seen.
Yeah, but cops are working for the system and everyone at home and all the good people down in their town, whatever, right? Corporate security shouldn't feel that committed.
Or feel that open walking around on the streets in Tokyo carrying their machine guns.
Just offhandedly pointing out, fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
That's not...
And I should say, they didn't come to escort us. We actually stumbled in to the secure convoy that had brought their CEO and were recognized and invited to join the...
Did I miss sometime when a Japanese CEO was hit with an RPG or something? Do they think Carlos the Jackal is lurking behind every blade of grass?
We were fairly intimidated.
Again, I just don't think corporations should feel that. I absolutely believe in a state monopoly on violence. Right? The only people who can do lawful violence outside of a handful of times when individuals can. Right? No corporation should feel comfortable doing violence.
Right.
Openly and without
certainly not outside your fence.
Yeah. Well, and again, if you want to paint your weapon some other color and pump them full of bear-stopping taser rounds, I don't care. And I'm sure that there's a number of those you shoot a human with and they're doomed. But I want it to take a while. Certainly longer than it feels MP5s are going to take. It may just be my Hollywood upbringing that makes me think, oh yeah, no, that's one of the ones you get a shot with and you fly backwards and you're not gonna, it, internet. But anyway.
Yeah. So let's see what else. Oh yeah. So we can come right up on Omicron. No, it's very similar to what we had yesterday. So we now have 27 plus states for surezies. And all that means is that the other states haven't managed to do the DNA typing yet for what they've got. Delta is still wildly dominant here, and we're only talking about the U.S. But again, the next data, which we mentioned yesterday, the good data right now is coming from Israel because Israel has a very competent program.
Yeah.
And so what they have discovered is that 2-dose Pfizer is ineffective against Omicron. There is no immunity.
Oopsie danger point.
2 doses with a booster provides significant protection from Omicron, and even more protection against Delta, which is important here because that's what is still on the rampage.
Yeah.
So you need the booster, basically.
You
Especially
need
if
the
you got
booster.
Pfizer.
Yeah. The other thing you're going to see, because there are idiots who watch the internet and draw pathetic conclusions, most of the people who've been infected with Omicron so far have been vaccinated. And there's a really simple reason for that, is at this point, the people who've been exposed to Omicron were the ones who were vaccinated and traveled and so forth.
Yeah.
So, you're going to get the hysteria. Vaccines don't work. And
always.
again,
Well,
it isn't true, but once it gets here and gets out in the open, which if it does what it did in South Africa, we're going to have a fight with Omicron. And when it gets loose in the community, it isn't going to be the vaccinated that get it, by and large.
Right.
Or they'll have much milder cases. So, good news is, still looks like it's milder.
Do we have any
than
new
Delta.
deaths from Omicron confirmed yet, or just the one?
Again, part of the reason there are no reported deaths from Omicron yet. There are 2 reasons for that. One is we don't have that many infected with Omicron, right? That we're actually checking and can say, yes, it's Omicron. Right. And the second is that most of the infected have been vaccinated, and it does appear to offer some protection in terms of the severity of the disease. So anyway, too early. We'll get more data as we go.
Okay. So you have we haven't spoken about this in a while, but you have a climate weirding update.
I love this. And the reason I put it back on our little schedule is everybody is asking if the tornadoes yesterday were the result of climate change. Nobody knows. And there's a fairly simple reason for that, is that our historic records of tornadoes are not particularly good, right? But what we do know is that one of the tornadoes that happened yesterday had the highest winds ever measured. Now, we haven't been measuring winds for that long. The previous record was 280 miles an hour. This one was 283. So we're
talking an F5 then.
Yeah. Anyway, these were very bad tornadoes, and they persisted for very long tracks, right? So they are very atypical in terms of tornadoes.
Right.
But is that due to climate change? Who the hell knows? And it doesn't matter.
Right.
The whole point behind climate change is that in the equatorial regions and in the lower latitudes, like Gulf of Mexico, we're storing more and more and more heat, right?
Right.
Well, that heat is what drives the heat engines, which are hurricanes, tornadoes, etc. So is it going to get worse? Yeah, it's going to get worse, period. Don't even have to look. Of interest, the Gulf of Mexico was left noticeably warmer than usual this season, which means that it will start next season warmer, and it will get warmer yet. And this is why we've had at least 2 hurricanes now that went from category 1 to category 4 or 5 in 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So storing the energy and just waiting for some little heat engine to come by and redistribute it is a dumb thing to do, right?
Well,
and hurricanes are getting worse.
Right. And one thing you don't want with a hurricane, because hurricanes feed off of the top 100 feet of water being warm.
Yeah.
Now, as climate weirding consistently gets worse and the oceans consistently get warmer, that 100 feet is going deep now, right?
Yeah.
So whereas sometimes
Further
you'd
and
have
further out.
60 or 80 feet, okay, so you wouldn't really get feeding to it. Now that hot
Well,
water is getting deeper.
And it's important to remember that the larger the storm, the deeper it feeds.
Right.
Right. So, again, so are these caused by climate change? I don't know whether that tornado was. I can tell you that future tornadoes will be. And I don't have to have any studies to tell you that. When that winter cold is driven down by the jet stream and it encounters the hot air that we have left behind, which is the whole Midwest, is hotter than it should be right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when that Arctic air comes down, you're going to get tornadoes.
So can we go digging for things in, say, North Korea? Get enough nuclear autumn.
Oh,
I just needed a country we don't care about.
yeah. No, I agree.
That's most of them, but
That would certainly be one of my choices. No, but again, you don't have to have perfect proof to understand that climate change is going to make these worse. One thing that it has done is it has been shifting Tornado Alley
yeah.
further to the east, away from the traditional Kansas, Oklahoma, right?
Right now, Dorothy'd have a Tennessee accent.
Yeah,
Well, Kentucky.
yeah,
She's cute. It's a cute accent. Shut up.
yeah. Anyhow, so you'll hear people on both sides of it, and the point is the argument doesn't matter. It has no content.
Yeah.
We're storing more energy in the atmosphere. Big shock, it's being turned loose. So,
All right. Well, I want to briefly discuss that Amazon had 6 workers killed in the collapse of one of their big warehouses.
you know,
And they are currently digging, looking for,
Union
anyone who
organizers.
might have unionized. So, fuck you, Amazon.
God.
Amazon, they keep it all in their pockets, so you're going to have to find the bodies.
Yeah.
Hey, shh, don't tell
A number of those sort of industrial buildings really got wiped flat.
them.
It was shocking.
Those buildings are barely buildings.
Yeah, no, well, they're intended to withstand thunderstorms, and that's not what they got.
Yeah, no, I'm not picking on the buildings
Yeah.
themselves, just...
Well, and this again is when you start thinking about the costs of climate change, right? Is you're going to get weather that isn't on the list of weather you're expecting.
Right.
Because history can't be your guide anymore.
Right.
So anyway, have fun. It's going to be exciting. All kinds of new weather and stuff. It's really great.
All right. So tell us about the fungus among us. I'm pretty interested in this one.
This one I had heard about before, and now somebody is getting serious about studying it for a number of reasons. Turns out more than a quarter of the Earth's species live in the dirt. And among the things that live in that dirt are huge quantities of fungus.
Mm-hmm.
And they store carbon, they provide plants with most of their nutrients, and the plants need them to survive.
Right.
So if climate change is going to hurt those, we may be in real trouble. Like nothing will grow.
Uh-oh.
So anyway, and you might have, and everybody who's ever dug in wonderful, probably eastern dirt,
Loamy soil.
yeah, has seen the mycorrhizal fungi. Those are the little white strands you see in the dirt.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Right.
one of the beneficial ones.
Okay, yeah, those are really good ones. And so again, they form a network that decays dead plant tissue, that transports nutrients from large areas to trees, and then trade those with trees for something that the fungus wants. There's also pretty good evidence it's their telephone system. That's how trees tell each other that there's a bug around they might want to,
Start building
resist.
chemicals against.
Yeah. And so anyway,
Wow.
this huge underground life system that we know almost nothing about, right, in terms of the major scale. So we're going to try to do, they're saying 10,000, I think 100,000 might be better, but samples to figure out where are they,
Okay.
right? And to begin on that basis, to begin to say, do we think climate change is going to affect these populations of fungus
Oh, yeah.
that we never see and depend on for our food? So anyway, it will be very interesting.
Yeah, well, and for all you vegans that try to think and talk like you're better than everybody, yeah, guess what? They talk, they think, they have conversations, they trade for things. Like, come on, people. Like, they're living beings. You're not any better than the rest of us that eat animals. Fuck off.
I think if I were a vegan, I would offer the example that most plants at least have a life, right? And are not kept in cages and so forth and so on.
Yeah, well.
So I'm aware of the damage I inflict eating meat.
Yeah, and I'm
And
perfectly
I
fine
apologize
with it.
for
The
it.
same way I'm perfectly fine with eating a carrot. It's the same thing as far as I'm concerned.
I would also be fine with paying more to have meat from animals
Because
that were
another
treated
thing
better.
you have to remember is that a lot of, plants are treated with pesticides and herbicides and all kinds of fertilizers and such. So they are not treated any better
Even
than
the
your average
ones that
animal.
are grown organically are interacting with enough sulfur. You have to wear protective gear.
Mm-hmm.
All
And
right.
organic means nothing, people.
Yeah,
So
stick to words that have a legal definition.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Your lawyer will thank you.
There is no legal definition for organic, so pretty much anyone
Or
can
match
claim
grade.
their stuff is organic, and it doesn't really mean anything. Do your research.
Organic is the match grade of food.
Yeah.
there you go.
Fair. Okay, so let's talk about Chris Wallace real quick. He is leaving Fox News for CNN after 18 years. Good job, Chris Wallace.
I don't know. So, what was he cool with for the last 17?
Well, you have to remember he was on their news, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't spinning. He was on their political news. He didn't spin stuff. I actually liked watching him when he would do debates and such. I felt he was always very fair. He would ask very pointed questions.
That's largely why I felt he was around, was to give a veneer of real news.
Legitimacy to Fox.
And
Maybe he got tired of doing that.
yeah, well, and tomorrow I'm going to feel a completely different way about
Okay.
it, but this isn't like a regular job. This isn't like, did you hear what third shift did last night? Oh, they fucked up.
What happened?
Yeah, no, it's not like that. Like, he hears about it. It's news. Like, they tweeted the dumb things.
He hears about
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
He knows Tucker Carlson is out there going, white replacement and various Nazi adjacent things, or fascist adjacent.
Oh, and an endless pile of COVID idiocy.
Yeah, the stuff that makes you eventually
COVID-idiocy.
have to say, why would anyone take this seriously
Right.
in a court of law when you work for a news station? That's why.
Yeah.
The same reason we freaked out when Who's It's played War of the Worlds.
So his explanation, he said, he's looking forward to a new adventure. That's what he said.
And a new working environment.
I imagine, yeah.
Can you imagine having to be polite to any of them?
I think it's going to be
No.
interesting to find out whether or not he's one of the bad ones.
Yeah, we'll see. So, way to go.
Yeah. All right, so I have a little bit of sad news, and then I have some good news. So let's start with the sad news. Anne Rice, famous author of Interview with the Vampire, which started the series The Vampire Chronicles, died on Saturday at 80 from complication caused by a stroke. So I'm just going to say, Anne, you will be missed, and you will live on in your phenomenal books. Thank you very much.
That stopped right after the Vampire Diary series. Don't look up anything new she's written.
No,
sad.
I've only read a couple things from her, and it was mainly like Interview with the Vampire and one of
Good
the
stuff.
other books.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
It was good. That
yeah.
was before she became a born-again lunatic.
Oh God.
Does one tell a vampiricist go with God?
I don't know.
Well, I don't believe that she believes she's a vamp. She just wrote about them. Like this is a
Right.
different.
It got weird, but that is definitely her as a gay vampire.
Okay, well, let's hope she's
got that
healthy
in
mentally
interviews.
now,
Yeah.
wherever she is and whatever she chooses to be. So go with everything.
Whatever the devil you
go
want.
with the universe. So yeah, no, I
No, they are good books. I read
Yeah.
most of the Interview with the Vampire series. I got dipped out around Moloch, but It was phenomenal. It's right up the White Wolf Alley of
I love
court
White
intrigue
Wolf,
and some
yeah.
really good stuff.
Cool.
All right, so sorry about that, but good news. On National Brownie Day, a Massachusetts-based cannabis company called MaryMed made an 850-pound chocolate brownie that measures
Yep.
3 feet by 3 feet by 15 inches high
Wildly
and
dense.
contained 20,000 milligrams of THC.
How many pounds is that?
I'm sorry, 20,000 milligrams.
20,000 milligrams of THC.
So 20 kilograms, 40 pounds.
All right, that's a lot.
You said 22,000 milligrams.
20,000 milligrams.
20,000 milligrams, 20 kilograms, 44 pounds.
Yep, that's a lot of weed in a brownie.
Yeah. That's a lot of.
I needed to see adult
THC.
So
numbers.
this is now officially the world record largest THC cannabis brownie ever made.
The largest magic brownie ever made.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
The previous one was like 250 pounds or something. So they beat it by a huge amount.
Next year, make fractionally sized brownies and just mail them to, like, send a dozen brownies to a place
Yes.
with one magic one.
Right?
Oh, brother.
All right. So we're going to head back to... Okay.
Yesterday.
Yeah, this was a couple days ago.
Was it?
It
Questions
was
we
the day
didn't get
before
to.
yesterday. Questions we didn't get to because
So this is called what?
yesterday I did my deep dive. So I did not sit down to come up with a new name. I literally spent the entire day setting up
The old bit with Risen because we're hacks and frauds.
setting up my setting up our
I
Facebook,
don't
setting
vote
up
for
our podcast,
Leftovers with Risen.
updating everything. So it's been a lot for me today.
So, leftovers with Risen.
No,
You're
I'm
ready.
calling it Fireside Chat with Risen. I still like that one. Sticking with that for the moment. Okay, so these questions are about choice. All right, choices. And I have a gambit of them, so this should be intriguing. Is there such a thing as a wrong choice?
Obviously.
Oh, absolutely. I will fall back on what I think is one of the truest statements ever made. Good choices come from experience. Experience comes from bad choices.
Fair.
Done now.
Agreed. Okay, so
It
here's
is a shame, right, that so many of us have to learn this in every generation, right? That, you know, our parents, or we don't believe them. I think probably didn't believe them. So, anyway.
You can't. They've spent too many other times telling you you're gonna die if you climb that tree, and then you climb that tree the next
And
day
you
when no
didn't
one's
die,
watching.
right.
You didn't die.
Yeah.
That's some bullshit. They
Yeah.
don't know anything.
So, so to parents, right? When you tell a kid, if you climb that tree, you'll die.
Sabotage.
Make
the
sure
tree.
it happens.
Yeah, cut halfway through some of them branches.
I saw an amazing meme today. It was about parenting, and it was something along the lines of you know, like, I don't believe you, you lie to me about things. And the mother said, so you know, don't forget to go to bed or you'll go into an interdimensional hole or whatever. And he said, oh, you're just lying. And then the kid said, oh yeah? You should talk to your brother about it. And the kid said, I don't have a brother. And the mom goes, that's what I'm
the
saying.
point.
Get to bed.
That's the joke about the Utah facility.
Oh, God.
kid.
Oh my God.
And I'm telling it wrong, but it made
Yep.
me laugh.
I love
it was
that.
funny.
Yeah.
No, we used to joke a friend of mine's kids. Like, yeah, don't die, we'll have to warm up a clone.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's hidden in Utah. Yeah, cloning.
Which would
so-
also make it effective when they're being really bad, right?
Yeah.
You pick up your cell phone, you pretend to dial, you hold it to your ear, and you say,
Yeah.
warm up a clone. And
Boy, it just feels like you're gonna.
don't
die
even
today.
look at the kid,
Yeah,
right?
that's what happened in number 13. Good job.
You know,
All right, so here's the next question. Have you ever thought you made a wrong choice, but it turned out to be the right one?
Nope, I'm good.
oh shit. You know, I'm going to fall back on another one of those tried and true
Say some
truisms,
faulty
right?
shit. do have to say it, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I'm sure if I looked back at my childhood, I would come up with some things I wish I hadn't done. But the point is, you today are the sum of all the choices that you have ever made.
Yeah.
Right?
He's stealing my Star Trek reference.
Huh?
There's an episode of Star Trek where Jean-Luc Picard gets the option to not get stabbed in the
To not
heart.
get stabbed in the heart.
And
That's
then
right.
he becomes,
Yep.
third ensign of Who Gives a Damn over
Right.
there in the corner.
Yeah.
Because part of it is I need to know you'll throw a punch. And the Navy determines that sometimes by bar fights.
No, I looking back over my life, I'm sure people could find things to point at and go, well, that was probably a mistake. But I'm happy with where I wound up, so clearly they weren't.
No. This isn't a whatever. It's a. Do you have a story
See?
where you thought you made a wrong choice, but it turned out to work out well, whatever the decision was.
Turns out we're right 97% of the time. It's a curse.
So you've never
It's
sat
genetic.
there. You've never sat there and been like, "Ah, shit, I fucked that up," and then been like, "Oh wait, that worked out much better."
Not
than
if you're not going to
planned."
let me use my my timeline as an example of loads of bad choices, but I like where it ended up.
Yeah.
So, a lot of what seemed bad in life ending at the time turns out to have been better and taking me to a better place.
All right, just so y'all know, on the other side of the microphone here, all you people out there, you Boomer Rex fans, we'll find a cool name for you. But
Rexers.
no, denied.
The other choice is
Rex, you're
boomers.
so sexy. We have to watch a movie.
We do.
You've never seen Save the Empire.
You've never
Empire
seen
Records.
Empire Records?
Nope.
Oh my god.
Yeah, sorry.
What's a Rexer?
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
You'll understand. It's fine. Oh my
It's one of
god.
the sad things about getting old is you lose all your cultural references.
Oh,
Don't worry. None of the Gen Z kids
is
would get
a-
this either. This is just some
Okay.
old Looney Tune millennial shit.
This is cult classic movie that
Yeah.
like
This is
only
stuff we stole from the baby Xers because they
I only
weren't
know-
that much bigger.
I only know about because like I had friends who watched it and shared it with
Find
me.
a copy and we'll see.
I have like 5 copies. You're fine.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, so let's try another question since you guys are playing ball
Who
here.
glued all these quarters to the floor?
I don't have to explain my art to you, asshole.
See how convenient it was to name him asshole?
No, you guys kept trying to talk me into changing it.
Oh.
I'm like,
Okay.
no, sometimes it fits.
Have you ever felt like you didn't have a choice?
Didn't what?
Have a choice. Have you ever been in a situation where you were like, I have to do, like, there's no choice here. This is the only way forward.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have a lot of choice about being drafted.
Yeah.
But you kind of did.
Not good ones.
But the way it happened, you kind of did.
Well, yeah, I qualified for
You
officer.
had options for how you got, which is more than
Drafted.
anybody else I've ever known.
No, it was open to anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
You just don't open your mail. No, I'm agreeing.
I qualified for officers candidate school prior to the arrival of the draft notice that we all knew was coming. And so when I got my draft notice, I took it down to my recruiter and I said, I have this piece of unopened mail, which appears to be from my draft board. And I wonder if you'd like to open it. And he said, I will do that. But he said, before we do that, we're going to go get you sworn into the Army. So they marched me down the hall and swore me into the Army. Then he came back and opened the envelope and sent him a note that said, so sorry, Sam, he's already in the Army.
But
So
at
he
the
can't
same
be
time,
drafted.
You made the decision. You chose to do this other thing because you
Yeah.
knew you were going to get drafted. So most people didn't necessarily know they were going to be getting that piece of paper, or didn't know that they had a choice to go to talk before that paper came. So no, I still feel like that you
Okay.
had some amount of choice.
So it would qualify in a previous question as a choice that turned out better than whatever. So
yeah. All right. So
more questions?
God, you guys guys are just throwing
Just
my
eating 'em
questions
up.
away here. No, you're not eating them. You're barely answering them.
Yeah, no, these are not like good open-ended questions for us. I don't know.
No, they're good open-ended questions. You're just not answering them. Have you ever been overwhelmed by too many choices?
Nope. Again, burdened with hypercompetence.
Fuck you. Why?
It's my biggest flaw as well. That and I'm gonna sleep with 2 coworkers, one of them at work. But if history is any judge, don't sleep with coworkers on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want on the internet. I'm not your supervisor.
The,
Whoever you want. I don't care. I'm not your mommy.
I think there are lots of occasions when you have an overwhelming number of choices. But typically major decisions, you don't. You have 1 or 2,
Yeah.
paths, and you get to choose.
I have an overdeveloped sense of fair play and a ridiculous action bias, so I'm just going to do something that seems kind of fairish.
Okay.
And if any of the choices look remotely like that, if we're not doing that, someone's going to have to pull me away from it.
Yeah.
'Cause
Anyway,
no, I am better to do something now, right now, than figure it out while we're all fucked up afterwards. Like, you know what we should have done? I'm like, nah, I don't fucking care, man. I'm busy thinking about what we should be doing right now.
Yeah.
there's a meme about horses.
No, no, just the one.
It says, "Slow down, you don't know where you're going." And the horse says, "I do know where I'm going. Going fast."
Yeah.
Going fast.
So,
Leave a U-shaped hole in the world. Like,
Yeah.
in a good way, the internet. Like,
anyhow.
you should be what happens to problems. Problems shouldn't happen to you.
So,
Well, that's like my scheme of driving, right? Is if you go fast enough, 100% of the threats you need to deal with are in front of you.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're not going to be squished from behind.
All right, so final question on choices. Does having more choices mean having more opportunities?
Yeah, probably. Right? That
Yeah,
you've got a broader range of places you can land from where you're standing.
More potential rolls of dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, more potential outcomes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really had problems sorting right above and below the 50% mark. Drop everything below 50%. Now start figuring.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I could smoke crack, drive over cops, and shoot at kids, but like, that's probably not a good day.
Right.
Don't
So
do
that's
any of those
below
things.
your cut line.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, it's a weird day when that turns out to be the end. It's like, well, I've done everything else.
You know,
All of a
that
sudden
could be a
realizing I don't even
road.
know how to like gesture for smoking crack. No, that's a bong.
No, that's a bomb.
Fuck it. That's what I'm sticking with.
See,
Okay.
You want to smoke a bong full of crack? Don't.
that ought to fix you
Don't
right
do
up.
the drugs, the inches
Yeah.
webs, unless it's weed and it's legal in your state. That's fine.
Your mileage may vary.
Or you have a
restrictions
medical. Yeah, if you've got a
Yeah,
medical.
That one with
Offer may
doing
not be
that and
valid
running
in all
people over. Yeah, I would
Offer
leave
may
that
not
on
be
the
valid.
permanently on the road not taken list.
Individual store participation may vary.
Right.
Send one self-addressed stamped envelope full of 20s.
So what else have we got with choices?
Well, no, I have another question.
God.
if you
Oh,
wanna
I'm
move
sorry.
on.
Fine. I thought okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to keep
First, we
talking
don't
about
have
choices,
broad
we certainly
answers.
can.
Now we have 2 broad answers. There's just no right answer.
Or we can talk about this other thing and see if you guys want to somehow tie it back to choices. I mean, I'll see. I mean, good luck.
Sons of bitches.
I feel like you can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah, no, let's skip it for now.
Okay.
Maybe in a minute.
What do you think it means to walk in someone else's shoes?
That you've stolen their shoes.
Sure.
And now there's a barefoot man or woman, that is with it me, chasing
And you-
after you.
And the shoes you're wearing may or may not fit.
You're
So
probably,
you may not be able to run away all that well.
And you're probably going to find yourself wishing that you had walked a mile with their hammer.
The internet. Do you now understand what I live with? Live with every day.
Yeah, you should have made better choices.
God.
No, I think it's.
Have you ever made a choice?
In hindsight.
I think the problem is walking a mile in someone else's shoes, right? If you're in a college dorm and they're your next door neighbor, yeah, you can probably walk a mile in their shoes because their shoes are kind of the same size as your shoes.
I was going to make a flip fungus joke, but now I see we're being
Asshole.
serious.
Yeah, well, you've already traded funguses in the shower room. So,
You were trying to fucking kill me, dude. I was drinking. Oh God,
that's how you know a good comment. It makes stuff come out your nose.
Luckily, it didn't, but we were close.
No, I think there is a spectrum of life situations that no one who is comfortably employed, et cetera,
Oh, yeah.
Can experience because whatever they experience in those shoes, they know they're going to get to take them off.
Yeah. That at
And
best
they
you're
don't
somewhere between
understand
tourist and
Yeah.
whatever the ruder way of saying undercover boss is.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought tourist was fine, but
Yeah, but only.
but I think if the life situations are different enough that when you talk about walking in someone else's shoes, you're talking about literally being a tourist.
Yeah.
And that's the way you should think of it. And that can be awakening, but you don't get the experience. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And you wouldn't want it sometimes.
You are commenting on the action
Yeah.
of walking in someone else's shoes. That's not the question I asked. I said, what do you think it means to walk in someone else's shoes? I didn't ask if you felt it was possible. I didn't. This is why I love talking to you guys, because you kind of come up with your own questions, because that could have been a follow-up question, but you led with that. So now let's get back to the original. What if you were to describe to somebody else what you think it means to walk in someone else's shoes, like how would you describe that? How would you define walking in someone else's shoes? That's what
I wouldn't, because I'm either half torn telling someone, yeah, man, probably don't say that phrase, because I don't think you did. Like, you had an experience, and that taught you something. That's not day in, day out. Like,
so you don't believe that the phrase walking in someone else's shoes
is even possible,
is reasonable or legitimate to even discuss?
I think if you're not telling your story, be damn careful.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you think journalists, someone who is an investigative journalist who will follow someone around and kind of talk to them about their life and how they feel, do you feel they can tell that story?
I think with dedicated work and effort, yes. Right?
Yeah, you'd have to have the time, you'd have to have the extended contact, you'd have to have and even then, I think half of your reaction to the grinding fear, right, will always be, I can go home.
Yeah.
And
right, that you didn't wake up in an insane asylum under someone else's name or whatever.
Yeah.
And no, I think
But no, I'll go back to defending I think if a journalist really spent the time, that they could give you a much more in-depth view than you could ever achieve by yourself.
Certainly better than our standard of parachuting people in.
Yeah.
To show up on Wednesday and get 2 days.
How do you feel about the fact that your father ran over your daughter?
Yeah.
So you guys don't even think that it's really reasonable to discuss the idea of?
No, I think it's something. I think it's something we need to figure out how to do.
But I think it's going to take weeks. I think it's going to be intensive. I think it's one of those. The journalist is going to come away with a genuine ass experience, and even then, what the benefit there is their ability to explain it to people who haven't.
Yeah.
Which means they have to still have at least 1 foot in, right? Whoever they're explaining to can. So,
A valuable goal.
yeah, because otherwise, like, I'm torn between picturing the reality show things of, like, whichever swap and the other thing, and I don't think that's walking any distance in other people's shoes. That's learning some new stuff. But not. You're not really learning what it's like to be that person. Right? At best, you're sharing a handful of bad experiences they had or good ones. I mean,
Yeah.
you could be, I don't know, tailing around somebody rich and famous. But even then, I don't think you can really understand what it's like, right? Because there is a level of rich that I'm willing to accept the fact that everyone you meet either wants something from you or works for you. And that's, I don't know, at least for like a couple of minutes there when you realize, oh my God, I'm stupidly rich and no one's going to say no to me, that's gotta suck. Like, just as a human being, knowing that I've had my last honest conversation with another human.
Right. You've had your last friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever you've got for friends, good luck. And even then, we'll see. But it's hard for me to feel bad for rich people.
Yeah.
And the other examples I can find are bad examples of where people tried to do parachute journalism and, right, went and stayed with a poor family for 3 days.
3 whole days.
Hey, at least when they actually met some of the poors, that's something as compared to the handful of people who've done the food stamp challenge. And they take as much money as food stamps would give you for bird, and they find all these cute, fun ways to do it. Like, yeah, that's
not
you
what
don't
happens.
understand. That's probably right. You're working 2 jobs. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's probably some sick people around who need like some attention. So you really don't have time to spend 4 hours making dinner.
All right. So here's how you make it realistic. You have them jog on a treadmill for 10 hours a day, or walk or whatever, but on a treadmill for 10 hours a day. Then they have to do the rest of it in the other time that they have, including sleeping, including whatever, and then have them talk about these new cool ways that they found to do the whatever while babysitting someone's children if they don't have children of their own, like all this other shit. Like, and taking little Timmy to the doctor or the swim class or whatever. Yeah.
That horrible moment after 4 gunshots ring out and you're trying to decide, so, like, do I just lay here and figure it's done, or is this the opening act of tonight's little drama?
So there I can tell you a way to do this. Leave your credit cards at home.
Yeah.
And go live with that person for 60 days.
Yep.
I feel like you do need to bring some amount of money to not
Cover your own freight.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't want to make more of a burden on yourself to them. But what you do is what they buy, you buy for yourself, right? So you help out to pay your own share sort of deal, but you buy the same stuff as them.
No, I was going to let you go get a minimum wage job and help. If that's what it took.
Well, and again, that's probably less feasible. The more feasible thing would probably be to give yourself whatever they're getting hourly or less, however much.
Depends on the thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
The 6 corporations that own all news in the U.S. aren't going to do that. So much better to have Becky with the good hair or Timmy with the whatever do the challenge where it's just a math problem. And no, look, see, I checked, because if you go to all of these places, and short answer to your question, no, I don't think most of the time you're here walking a mile in someone else's shoes. I think it's a good idea of things we should think about right before we start to shouting at each other. But
no, and this is just walking in someone, like what does it mean to walk in someone else's shoes? And you guys just don't feel like it's even worth discussing for the most part.
I think that phrase gets used an awful lot when
my reaction
it
to
wasn't
it
even good tourism.
Yeah, my feeling on it is the same as when someone says thinking outside the box. I'm like, great, god damn it, it's one of these kids. Or it's just been too used and become too cliche by exactly who you don't want trying to explain this.
Yeah.
All right.
And actually doing it is something that's very, very hard to do.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I've seen people who've embedded entirely too hard and become part of the culture they're covering, and that's just as useless. Because now I didn't need an apologist or a right.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can get more of these two being fucking overly logical about absolutely goddamn everything.
Hey, you made it choices, and I don't know, that just lit up
all the bad things, apparently.
all the like zombie shark part of
So
my
these
head.
two don't like choices. So
No, choices are great, but choices are a math problem.
Oh god. All right. Well, we've had a wonderful night.
Yep.
This has been a lot of fun.
It has, actually.
You know, so I'm, hoping to figure out what the fuck is up with Podbean. Like, Podbean, help me out. Trying to work with you. In the meantime, I will definitely in the description have our Facebook. If I can figure out what's going on with the Podbean, I'll post that as well. But yeah, so got some new fun stuff. I want to use our Facebook to do polls about what you guys want to hear more about. So kind of sort of I'll do like, what should my next deep dive be? And you guys can vote, and I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
So let's call it a night tonight, and
Yep.
it's been a lot of fun. We love you all. Thanks for hanging out with us once again, and we'll see you back tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
Yeah. Tomorrow night on Boomer Rex Tonight.
Bye, Internet.